Hey guys, I hope you have settled in for this next creepy episode of Reddit Stories. Before I begin, I would like to ask you to smash that like button as it would really help my small channel to grow. Thank you. So, let me give you a little backstory. My name is Morgan and I am a 17-year-old male from North Wales, UK. Me and my friends, 5 of us in total, was going to the castle close to our house to do a Ouija board. We all live on the same street, so we met at my house and then walked the 3 miles to the castle. It is now 11 p.m. and it is completely dark. You have to walk in the woods and up some very steep inclines. It would take us an hour to reach the tower where we are planning to do the Ouija board. So on with the story. After about 15 minutes, we are about 50 feet from the tower, and now we can hear full-blown chanting. We can see a fire coming from the tower, and I can see a white figure facing towards this fire. I tell everyone to stand behind me and be absolutely quiet. We tiptoe towards the tower, and we are now at the entrance, and I peek my head around and see about 10 hooded figures around the fire and what looks like a dead dog being burned on the fire. After about 1 minute of staring in shock, one of the hooded figures spots me. He alerts the other figures, and before they started to come after me, I calmly walk away to my 4 absolutely terrified friends and quietly said, "Fucking run." So we did. We ran for our lives. I could hear the figures hot on our backside. I started to cry. They were not saying anything, they were just bolting for us, fully covered in white hooded robes with 2 black holes where the eyes would be. After about what felt like 5 hours chase, but was only about 5 minutes, we came to the main path leading out of the castle. I looked behind me one more time and saw the last few figures walking backwards to the tower. We still had another 45 minutes walking down the path leading through the woods and out of the castle. Presuming we were safe, we sat down, had a cigarette and a beer each with my fiancé David and Cheryl. Both went on to tell us that the hooded white figures were probably a cult. They explained what a cult was, and the hair stood up on the back of my neck. I have never been so disgusted and terrified in my life, but we soon changed the subject to lighten the mood and eventually sat back off. We finally arrived back at the entrance of the castle. We decided to get a taxi home, and I phoned the police. I told the police about what we all saw, and they said they will look into it. The next day, the police said they went to the tower and found a fire pit with the remains of a dog in the middle of it, but they never found any trace of the cult. To this day, we haven't been back to the castle, and we don't plan on doing. And to the cult who killed the poor dog and chased us, we all hope we never have to see you again. I live in North Wales, UK. For anyone who has had the pleasure of visiting, it truly is a beautiful place to live. though for an adolescent boy, it is certainly lacking in things to do. As a result, my friends and I would often find ourselves mindlessly exploring areas of countryside and coastline. Despite it being quite sparsely populated in comparison to the closest cities, there's a dual carriageway running right along the coast from Wales into England. Also, train tracks run alongside this road for most of its course, occasionally passing overhead via a small cement bridge. Anyway, there was one night a few years ago when about 4 of us randomly decided to try and explore the inside of one of those bridges, as one of the group had observed a manhole cover nearby, which we believed to be the entrance. On closer inspection, we discovered that several tools would be required in order to gain entry. We returned with the necessary equipment and proceeded to unbolt the cover. This had to be done stealthily as the train track was right beside us, not close enough to be of any danger, but definitely a sufficiently small distance to cause panic for any train driver. And panic usually means police. It wasn't long before we had removed the heavy steel disc and had started descending the ladder down into the structure. Once we had all safely reached the bottom, we decided to progress to the other side. At this point, we are totally confined into the narrow space that leads into the main area. If you are confused as to what the hell this bridge is supposed to be, you probably should be, because it was rather peculiar. I mean, I would have never known there was even an inside had we not found the manhole. So, as we squeeze and crouch, and at one point scrape along our bellies to the other side of the structure, there is a growing sense of claustrophobia between us. The distance from one end to the other is surprisingly long, but by the halfway point you can look down through narrow gaps onto the motorway below. This was actually pretty cool, which helped keep us calm in a strange way. At this point, apart from the mild discomfort and confinement, we were still just a group of guys on an adventure. This was about to change dramatically. No more than a few meters beyond halfway, which we could tell due to the symmetry of the passageways through the bridge, one of us claimed they could see some object in the distance at the far end. Slightly hesitantly, we agreed to investigate. Bad move. I reached the end first, and let me tell you, I have never felt the same sense of dread before or since. In front of me was a single fold-away chair positioned facing a wall. On the wall was a partly torn page from a newspaper or magazine showing a fully naked lady in an erotic position. The reason I don't just refer to it as porn is because something was different about it. I can't put my finger on it, but it seemed more sinister than sexy, if that makes any sense. More disturbingly, the eyes of the woman on display had been cut from the page, removed with precision, not hastily ripped off. The scene that lay before us had rendered us completely speechless, and an overpowering sense of panic could be felt collectively. That was when we found the condom, the horrendous, gut-wrenching, blood-drenched condom. Needless to say, we got the fuck out of there as fast as humanly possible, smashing our knees and shins against the sharp cement edges that lined the path to the ladder by which we had entered. Of course, we were all praying to God that the manhole hadn't been resealed, as it was impossible to tell until you reached the ladder itself. Thankfully, the exit route was clear, and we promptly dashed as far away as our legs could carry us. I'm sure this ending comes as a disappointment to some of you reading this, as we, luckily, never bumped into the twisted individual who sits in that chair, but I must stress how radically out of the norm this was, given where I live. The reason I mentioned the population earlier was with purpose. There's easily enough people here to escape the realms of crazy country folk, yet nowhere near enough people to have someone clearly lose grip on society without somebody taking notice. For example, there was literally only one homeless man who everyone in the area knew and grew fond of, eventually resulting in a mass gathering at his funeral when he passed away. I sometimes think, though not recently, as I had more or less forgotten about that night entirely, about the person who climbs down into that bridge and navigates through the darkness to sit facing a wall and do God knows what that ends up with a condom full of blood. You honestly couldn't envision a more surreal situation. It has just come to my realization that what we unearthed that night has not once been uttered to another soul. As a naive teenager, it was the type of thing you just wanted to forget. But thinking about, we probably should have let the police, or at least someone, know about what was down there, because it wasn't the doings of a healthy-minded individual. So, there you have it. Apologies for the length. I got a little carried away, as it is my first Let's Not Meet post, and I wanted to make the reading experience as similar to the reality as I could. Now I'm a few years older and hopefully a bit braver. I'm considering going down there again, accompanied of course, to see what fuck might be waiting. This could well happen in the next couple of days, and rest assured I will 100% post an update, as I currently have no job, so time is plentiful. Thanks for reading.